We're going to take a closer look at this with Ashish Prashar in New York. He's a former advisor to the Middle East peace envoy Tony Blair. Ashish, thank you so much for your time. Do you think this offer to release all the hostages in one go is a sign of goodwill from Hamas? What do you read from it?
Well, remember, the spokesperson for the hostage family, Chaim Rubenstein, said Hamas offered immediately to release all the hostages on October 9th, 2023. If the Israeli occupation didn't invade Gaza. But the occupation government chose, instead of getting its people back, rejected that and chose genocide. The occupation government thwarted these negotiations and chose to violently take revenge on all Palestinian people. Hamas has consistently offered to release all the hostages from day one, frankly, and the Israeli occupation, their government keeps rejecting this. Hamas is now offering it today, the same deal they're offering on day one, and they're off. You know, the only difference is they're basically trying to make this staged ceasefire, this phased ceasefire deal permanent. And why not? We have a ceasefire. It should be made permanent today. And I don't think this is a softening or hardening of Hamas's position. It's consistent. Their priority has always been the retrieval of tens of thousands of Palestinian hostages being held in occupation dungeons, tens of thousands of Palestinian civilians and children, frankly, that are being tortured in occupation dungeons. The only reason there's no permanent ceasefire now, and there hasn't been the release of all the hostages, is the fact that the Israeli occupation government itself wants to permanently end the Palestinian question, and they want to continue this genocide.
Do you think that the government of Benjamin Netanyahu also wants this to continue because it's also in Netanyahu's best political interest?
Right. I mean, the international community has no reason to trust the Israeli occupation or Benjamin Netanyahu. Look, let's just take history for a second. The Israeli occupation itself has signed 6 ceasefire agreements with the Palestinian resistance in 08, 12, 14, 19, 21. Each time it's followed a similar trajectory. The resistance observes the agreement. The Israeli occupation always violates it. Now, are we surprised? They're not even upholding the current ceasefire agreement, right? They haven't actually ceased fire. I think your colleague said earlier, they've killed up to 100, if not more than 100 Palestinians and wounded over 1,000 more Palestinians through direct targeting since the ceasefire began on January 19th. And it's been established beyond any doubt that the Israeli occupation are to blame for this precarious nature of the ceasefire today. Look, the reality is they want the genocide to continue, and a lot of us know that it hasn't actually stopped the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian land. They've just moved it to the West Bank while while everybody's been focusing on getting aid and resources to Gaza. Look, and also, let's just be honest, a ceasefire itself doesn't end a genocide. The Israeli occupation have destroyed all means for sustaining life in Gaza. We must not forget that. They've taken apart all the hospitals, all the aid, all the food. People can't fish. People can't grow things. They've poisoned the land. Countless genocidal projects through history have achieved most of their harm and extermination, not with their bombs or their bullets, but their purposeful spread of disease and starvation. And the occupation is still denying access of much-needed aid, food and medical supplies while we carry on deciding whether there'll be a permanent ceasefire or not. And what I call on the international community to do, and I'm not just talking about Europe and America, who frankly cannot be trusted on this anymore, the global south and the rest of the world, which makes up the majority of the world. I'm calling on them to force the Israeli occupation to let in aid, food, and much-needed supplies right now to prevent this genocide to continue in a slow motion right now, which is just killing Palestinians who cannot get food or disease.
Ashish, when you call on the global south to do that, we've seen countries from the global south do that. South Africa, a country in question, they've taken Israel to the ICJ, accusing them of genocide, accusing them of war crimes. And then you see the retaliation against those countries, most notably from Israel's biggest ally, the United States, imposing sanctions on South Africa, saying that there is a white genocide falsely taking place in South Africa. So when the global south does want to rise up to try and rectify what's happening in Gaza, it gets retaliation from some of the strongest, most powerful countries in the world.
Well, I've got to ask the global south and all people watching today, who has power and resources? Europe doesn't make anything anymore. We all know Europe relies on getting all its resources from Africa, from Asia, from other countries, from Turkey, all these powerful nations across the world that basically keep Europe a service-based economy. If the world turned its attention on shutting down those resources getting to the West would have to capitulate and stop its support of the Israeli occupation. The only wild card is the United States, which basically is self-sufficient. But the rest of the global South together could sanction other Western allies who support the extermination of a civilization. Britain, France, Germany support the extermination of a civilization. And if Africa, frankly, the continent, turned the tap off of resources to Europe, Europe would shut down in a week. And we all know that to be true. Everyone in the political community knows that to be true. And they could end this genocide because we've been looking to the West to show those much talked about morals and human rights that they lecture the global South about. But frankly, the global South has always had those morals and human rights. The West, the mask of hypocrisy has finally fallen off. And it's time for the global South, frankly, to unite and together hold the West accountable for their actions and protect the people of Gaza.
And hopefully we will see that unification. Ashish Prashar, great to get your thoughts. Appreciate it. Thank you.